Thanks for staying with us right here on Sunrise as we continue now. Retrenchments are never easy, especially for those who are the ones possibly losing their jobs. Many companies in all sectors in South Africa have let many people go because of reasons such as the company can no longer afford it or because there is too much cost involved in keeping employees. But what about the cost to the person who is losing their only source of income? What about the families that depend on that person to take care of them? We know it is not easy to find work, and unemployment is still sitting at a point that makes it difficult for the economy to grow. Today we're joined by Communications Workers Union General Secretary Aubrey Tshabalala to speak to us more on retrenchments and what exactly it means for the employee and employer. And remember, you can be part of our conversation by giving us a call on 011-447-1742 or 011-447-1620. Your comments are also welcome on our Facebook and Twitter pages. Aubrey, thanks very much for joining us.
Good morning.
You deal with people within the ICT sector. So what is currently happening within those industries when it comes to issues around employment?
Well, firstly, you'll note that the ICT industry, it involves what we call now the fourth industrial revolution, where more technology is coming into place and the companies opt to use machines as opposed to human beings. And that has led to a massive job losses. But it's not because necessarily there is financial implications, but it's because the employers want to maximize the profit at the expense of the workers. And clearly that shows that there's no significant contribution towards the social economy of the country in general. Because if you have pointed out correctly that 1 into ratio of 5 persons support a family of 5 or so. So if one is unemployed or get retrenched, a lot of people suffers due to that.
Okay, so in terms of like the processes, the procedure that's supposed to be followed when a company is considering retrenchment, how far along should the process start? What is the procedure?
Well, there is there is a section of the Labor Relations Act, Section 198. What basically it says that there should be a consultation with workers, either with the trade union movement in that particular space. So there are engagement where the company will basically table out why they are retrenching and what are the reasons behind their retrenchment and all of that. And of course, most of the time they indicate finances, but sometimes they will tell you that there is no need for that particular job to continue in that particular company. So after the consultation, the unions normally they will look for alternatives to say, if you are closing down this department, how do we redeploy other people to other sections? So those are the engagements that take place. Should be no outcome out of that, the CCMA or an independent commissioner can come to mediate between the two parties. But obviously, most of the time you'll find that ultimately the company retrenches. But it's much better when you have a trade union where there are negotiations.
So I was going to ask, like, in the case where there is no trade union, what happens?
Well, the employer simply consult you. That's what the law requires from their side. To tell you that we are closing down your department or we don't need you anymore. This comes to an end. We can negotiate a package that we are going to take home. Most of the time they will tell you about paying 3 to 12 weeks per the year that you have worked in that company, depending what they are giving to you. So it will be that plus your pension that you've worked for. And because people are poor, they alternatively take that pension as a source of income rather than saving it for the rainy days.
Okay. All right, let's take a caller. We've got, is it Lehoko?
Yes.
Okay.
And how are you?
We're good on yourself, Lehoko?
I'm good. Morning all day.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. And I want to know from the guest, Aubrey Tshabalala there, what possibly could the union do when you are retrenched and with no sufficient time or that you are given in terms of is it supposed to be 3 months or is it supposed to be a month or
okay, the time frame. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And what can they possibly do in terms of assisting workers in that regard?
Okay, what is the actual time frame that the engagement between the employer who's retrenching the employees? What is a time frame that they're supposed to give?
There's no necessary prescribed time frame. That it depends on the type of engagements that you have.
Yeah.
But most of the time, the negotiations are about what is it that you do in terms of skilling people, so that if they're going out, for example, I'll make the example as telecom in this instance. You talk about job skilling so that they can be absorbed in the job market going forward. That's the first base. And using the institutions like SETA to develop workers on the training around that. That's the first point. But the second point is that you negotiate the package. Obviously, the employers, it has to be said, they are there for profit. They are not going to give you a lump sum package because they love you. So there have to be that tussles in engaging them to give you, because the law all the time gives a minimum of a week per a year that we have worked. So we normally try to expand from that, give a better
but I don't think that answers Lehoko's question in terms of like, is this a 3-month process? Is this a 6-month process?
Like I've said, it doesn't give you.
Even
there's
2
no
weeks
There's no regulated time. Yes,
okay.
The employer might come and said, we've lost everything.
Yeah.
We are
So
liquidating
tomorrow.
the company. We are closing at the end of the month and so forth. So you particularly where workers are vulnerable, where there's no union or anything of that nature, the employer normally exploit that space. So it is up to the trade unions to push the employer backwards to give a time that will deem as a reasonable time.
Okay. So let's take Solomon on the line. Hello, Solomon. You're calling from?
Yes, ma'am. I'm calling from Dobsonville. Good morning, everybody.
Hello, Solomon.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I was working for a company called Javedin since 2008 up to 2014. I was chased for using 4 days to fix up my dangerous goods. I'm a truck driver.
Okay.
Since then, it's hard for me to get a job. And I was bullied since I arrived to the job. They always ask me, since you are from Johannesburg, in which way did you get this job? Indians and white people from Durban. And the company today end up boarded by Imperial. And it's hard for me to get a job because they are the one who's supposed to have my reference. Any company I go to, they tell me, no, we can't hire you. We can't hire you.
Okay. So what can you do in that case?
Well, it's a challenge that is faced by many South Africans today. If you look at the number of unemployment rate is standing, I don't like to talk about percentage because it seems like it's a low number. When they say 32 to 33%, it's actually over 9.2 million people are unemployed in South Africa. And we're talking about people that are looking for employment, who are still actively looking for employment. Those who have stopped, who have given up are no longer counted into that. But also what Solomon touches on is that the companies normally, when they want to avoid the process of negotiating around retrenchment, they use Section 197, which is called outsourcing, where they know that ultimately after a year or a couple of months down the line, they will retrench you using the labor broker or the second employer in that instance. So that's what he has gone through, where they basically distance themselves. What needs to happen really is that the Labor Relations Act, in our view as unionists, is not necessarily in favor of workers when it comes to those two areas, the outsourcing and retrenchment, because there's little that the workers can do in terms of fighting or pushing back the company, particularly where there's no reasons really to retrench, where they just do that for a reason of profits and so forth.
Okay, so I was going to ask what constitutes an illegal retrenchment. I just wanted to hold that thought. We take another caller and we continue. We've got Hendrik from Pretoria. Hello, Hendrik.
Hello, how are you?
We're good, on yourself?
I'm all right. I just want to know about the company that is retrenching while you find that the company is retrenching for a certain position and hiring in other. And what is happening with that? Is that appropriately the labor law?
Retrenching in one position and what?
And hiring. You find that the company is retrenching the department but on that specific department, they are hiring another employee.
Okay.
Is it in line with the labor?
Is that
in the
line?
same
Yeah, in the
department.
same department.
That's what I think it relates to the question that we're about to ask.
Yeah.
Where the retrenchment is not justifiable. For example, you still have these vacancies, you're still filling these vacancies, but you, for one reason or the other,
Yeah.
You are saying, I'm letting these people go because I can't afford them, but you're still going to fill those vacancies. I think that's exactly
Yes.
the question that we're going to
Yes.
raise.
So is that what constitutes an illegal retrenchment?
Yes,
Okay.
it does. And that's one area, but the other area without consultation, because the Act is very clear. There should be consultation. Workers that are going to be retrenched should be given reasons and all of that. So it does align to that as well.
Okay, when it comes to outsourcing, what is the process of consultation to the current employees? Let's say a company is going to outsource. Should there be consultation with those employees before they embark on that?
Yes, they should, but it becomes a tick,
It's a
just
tick box.
tick box
Yeah.
kind of a process where you're just telling you that we are closing this department, we are going to move to the employer X. But fortunately enough, just to put a caution on that is that the law just provides you a comfort to say you're not going to be worse off in terms of your benefits and all of that, but it's only for a period of a year. So you find that the employers take you there with a plan of reducing your salaries at a later stage or retrenching you at a later stage. They move you to another company, so it makes it easier. So the employers have found ways of manipulating the law and also violating it in the same process to ultimately dismiss workers.
All right, we've got Lucas from Vereniging on the line. Hi, Lucas.
Good morning, how are you?
We're good on yourself.
Yes, mine actually is a comment. I think your guest here didn't get the question well. The question was, how long does it take for an employer to retrench an employee?
Okay.
So, yes, I think the Labor Relations Act stipulates that the 1 month notice must be given for a person who has worked for more than a year. And then less than a year, and then I think the 2 weeks notice.
Yeah.
I think I should comment on that one. I don't know whether guest did get that question for the previous caller.
All right, Lucas, thanks very much. Let's take another caller.
Thank you.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello, hi, what's your name?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
No. You hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. I just missed your name there. What's your name?
Mokwena.
Okay, Mukwena, please go ahead.
Yeah. The company, they've retrenched me. And then after that, when they retrench me, they say me they are going to give me a certain amount.
Okay.
But me, I was there to work for till 65 years. Now they say they are not going to give me the amount that we are talking about.
Okay.
Yes. So, what must I do?
So you couldn't. There was they were going to give you a certain amount.
Retrench me.
They retrench you.
me.
Ne batla offer amount and then after more ba change ba ra ba sa tlo offer eo.
No, tšhelete ba tlamehile ba efe, ne? A kere company ke yone e terminated contract. So ke a botsa gore ha company e terminate a contract, kante ha e se tšhelete ya ka e ne tlamehile ke berekela go fitlhella 65 years.
Okay. Aubrey, how does it work in that case?
Okay. I'll try to, I'm not so sure I'm getting the question clearly.
Yeah.
Is that one, it could be that they haven't agreed on a certain amount
Yeah.
and they are no longer paying him that.
Yeah.
Or
it could be that he was going to work for the company until he retires.
to retire.
Now they've retrenched him, so he wants to be paid.
to be paid up until that amount.
Yeah.
No. Okay. If that's the second question is a case, they don't do that. When you are retrenched, it's on the basis that, okay, let me say example, they say they cannot afford this department to go on. Clearly that means that they won't pay you up until 65 if you are 40 and so forth. So that's where you start negotiations. So they're avoiding that. You'll imagine that if they were to retrench and pay you till your pension time, there will be no need for retrenchment for most of employers. So that is the case. That's why you negotiate. But if you have negotiated and they've promised you to pay you an X amount, depending where you are, if there is a bargaining council or on that, you can be able to refer that or to CCMA. I'm saying that when there is a stipulated amount that the employer agreed that we are retrenching you, this is the amount that you are going to get. At the end of the day, they're not paying you. Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Coming back to the earlier question of the duration and time, I think we were talking about the negotiation process of how long does it take, where I said there's no regulation in terms of that. Yes.
All right. So here's another question. So if people in a department are being retrenched and the reasons given is that that department is not making profit, do people in that department have a right to request proof